Right, it's 12 minutes past the hour of 7, and it's time to take a look at today's newspapers, the headlines, of course. And as usual, with us in the studio is a journalist and social commentator, Charles Ideho. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Welcome. Happy New Month.
Good to have you on the show, and happy May Day.
Yes, exactly.
Are you glad to be a worker?
Well, some of us are in private employ, so.
Well, you're still a worker.
You're still a Nigerian worker.
Okay,
regardless.
I'm actually an employer of labor.
Fantastic.
Okay.
So
fantastic. We're still working.
I'm still working.
But we have to pay salaries.
All right, let's begin with our first headline this morning, coming from the Punch newspaper. Killing of Christians in Nigeria must stop, and that's Trump speaking there. In terms of corruption, Nigeria has a reputation for very massive corruption. The President, Buhari, has been able to cut down on that very substantially.
Yes, which is gladdening. What he's saying.
I cringed when I heard
President
Trump say that in the presence of our president.
No, but that's a good man for the president. But he said that before now, this was what obtained. But your coming in has been able to reduce it considerably. So it's a good man for. I mean, it's a passman for president. So, but you know, when you were listening. If you didn't listen to the end of what he said, then you heard that's where the fear would have been. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And the killing of Christians in Nigeria must stop.
He also mentioned
he's seeing the killings in Nigeria as the killing of Christians.
No. You see, not only Christian. He also mentioned about and then Christians of innocent Nigerians, including Christians and Muslims. So he widened the scope afterwards. Yes.
Afterwards,
he widened it. Yes. He widened the scope afterward.
Okay, Nigeria-US team up to repatriate $500 million looted funds, says Buhari. Okay.
Which is also gladdening. If we find that money here in Nigeria, I expect, I just imagine what that could do for us in the healthcare.
It will go a long way.
Well, yeah, exactly. How have they spent the money repatriated so far? The Abasha loot and other money.
Most of them are still subsidies. Most of them, that's why that's what we're meant to believe. So I expect that this new dispensation, if we can get that kind of money back, and then people who want to be patriotic, I want to also be nationalistic, to spend that money without even diverting it elsewhere, I think it will do a lot in our economy.
It surely will. New minimum wage, NLC warns FG against missing timeline for payment. Of course, the federal government had promised that in the third quarter of the year, August, September or so,
that's right.
That,
but the question I always ask is Labour. Labour they just cocooned, they just boxed the whole thing about minimum wage. There are other things. There's a whole lot, because for instance, people are complaining that they're not getting the best deal from government. I expect Labour from me to intelligentsia, discuss it and present paper to the government. These are some kick policies, support policies, not only when it's about labor, about minimum wage or so. Because labor has, when you mention labor now, what you remember?
Minimum wage.
Minimum wage.
And even on minimum wage, many have even said that they are not even coherent enough and don't even look organized. Really. Exactly. Because at one point you mentioned it, demanded for a particular amount going into that committee, and then afterwards you're demanding for a higher salary.
Even the one we already have as of this.
Nothing has been approved.
So I think, but do they demand it? Do they merit it yet? But what I would rather suggest is that let's have a minimum wage throughout the country. But each state can now be whatever they can pay. Let them pay. For instance, Lagos now will be able to pay 100 if they want to. They want to be. Lagos want to pay 100, but don't go below 30,000. River State can pay 50, depending. Not when you say this is the minimum wage 18,000. Everybody will not say, okay, we are boxing to 18,000. That is where I have.
Unfortunately, that's how people understand it.
Yes.
Oil price rises above $75 per barrel. Good one for Nigeria. Court jails Nwobike San for attempt to pervert justice. Okay, I prefer Buhari to Obasanjo, says Oba of Lagos.
Yes, I read it. But he looked at the 8 years of Obasanjo and had looked at the first stanza of the term of the current president. He's saying that he's aware that people are actually complaining about certain things, but he feels, personally, that the man is right on track. If we
get another 4 years,
he may be able to consolidate. So that's why, and then he says he's also listening more than Bye-bye.
Okay.
All right, so we go to the next paper. The Nation. Major story here, of course, expectedly, is on the Buhari visit to the White House. Buhari, Trump at White House. Killings must end. Nigeria grateful for warplanes deal, and the picture that went viral yesterday was it trended for so many hours yesterday across. And you know, I don't even want to say what Nigerians were saying about the picture, but then to a layman, many would say that maybe it depicted how some Nigerians, not all Nigerians now, don't even trust their own president anymore.
Not even trust, don't even respect the president. What I want to let our viewers know this morning is that no matter how much hate you have for the president, the man occupies a position in our country. That position is exalted. Buhari today occupies the office of the president of Nigeria. That office is highly exalted. So if you insult somebody who occupies, you are insulting the office, you are insulting Nigeria. So
but how is this an insult?
No, what I'm saying, what
some of what they were saying about
how? That's what I'm saying.
No, what people are saying, I mean, what people are talking about, they're talking down on the president. It doesn't make you can kick policies, but the president who is there don't disrespect the office of the president.
All right, so we'll check other stories now. Ohaneze, Uba, excuse me, others seek probe of explosion at Unwodo's residence, and then we go down to the paper. Patience Jonathan forfeits Abuja buildings. That was according to the court yesterday.
But this is unending.
Interim
it's unending. It's unending. So they mean that maybe she owns half of Nigeria now.
It's interesting how every first lady has been accused or alleged to own so many properties. You know, you're driving through the island, for example. That building belongs to this lady, or that building belongs to this first lady. And
but I think it's because of we still have the regime of powerful individuals and weak institutions. If we have weak institutions, they won't be able to do that because, you know, this decision will checkmate. I don't think Melania Trump will just start acquiring certainty because the system is there to say, no, you can't do that.
But it's already acquired enough.
Okay. Omar Gege's suspension, illegal. Many, of course, have talked about that.
But it's not the court that said it.
It's not the
it is the
AGF.
So we must know, we must be able to look at the difference. It's the AGF that said it in his capacity as the Attorney General. So unless it's the court of competent jurisdiction that will tell us that.
Okay. All right, so and before we continue, Angela, I need to reel out the remaining stories here. EFCC grills Chidoka over 3.9 billion naira fraud. Alex, he will be fit to travel with squad to Spain. And Olun lawyer's son charged with 40 million naira fraud. He was arraigned in court yesterday. All right, to the Daily Sun now. Bomb attack, worst form of insecurity. That's Yen Nwodo speaking there. Recall his home was...
But I've never, I mean, this is the very first time. I lived in the East before. Even living Lagos as a journalist who traveled all over Nigeria. I've never had even a banger shot at somebody in the Southeast. This is it's novel. It's novel, but I think it's a dangerous trend with the most arrest. If not, if that thing gets into the eastern Nigeria, I know in my brothers,
okay. True. Impeachment motion, more trouble for Edo Senator. Anti-Urogide protest in Benin as Assembly passes confidence vote in Buhari. Of course, he is alleged to have...
But he's on his own. But he was confessing that actually he was used as a major domo, so to speak, somebody as maybe as a barrack, you know. Go say this. Don't worry, as a trigger. Go say this. We are going to back you up. So when he said it, they don't withdraw the support. Now he's facing the backlash back home.
All on his own.
So it might even cause him his election to return to the because even the governors are angry with him. A session of the Edo election are angry, especially his own Edo South. They are angry with him. So I'm sure. So people should also learn from me that when people are egging you on, be very careful. Remember where you come from.
Especially if you're representing your constituents.
But then again, the really important thing is you really got to believe whatever your stance is. Just
exactly.
Let it really be a reflection of what you stand for. Okay, Wike blames FG for collapse of national security. Benue government sues Mieti Allah. Okay, that's all
All right, so we go to the New Telegraph, the major story here. Trump to Buhari, stop killings in Nigeria. I will go to the top of the paper. NLC insists on September deadline for 66,500 naira minimum wage. Vows to fight for better working conditions. Saraki, Nigerian workers are mainstay of economy, but are they treated?
Do they agree?
But are they treated as such?
That's what I'm saying. But if you said that you find them so much important to the economy, how come you're not treating them? Because even if you are here now because you are rendering good service, if the company doesn't treat you well, there's no way you do your best. So we must look at them. Nigeria must look at the importance and the relevance and the significance of workers in the economy of Nigeria. Treat them well, then you get the best. That's why you find a lot of people still stealing, and then this graft has not left us. If somebody is adequately paid, I'm sure that proclivity towards dipping his or her hand into the coffers of the will be reduced minimally.
All right.
Or considerably, I mean.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
WAEC, how principals, invigilators, candidates engage in malpractices.
Oh, it's not new.
Oh, all right.
It's not new, so let's move on to the next.
Okay. Energy boosting.
Is that all you'd say about it?
Because it's not, because you know that. Oh, have you not heard of special centers? Have you not heard of where principals big money? I mean, they make. I don't want to start. Let's not flog
even kids have the effrontery to go to their parents and say, "Mom, Dad, I need extra money to pay for this special center."
No. Even the parents will even say, "We will pay for you." This is what others do.
So don't register there. Don't worry. We'll take you to where you're going to register,
so
and then you ace your examination. All right. Energy boosting supplements could raise death risk. That is a warning.
Okay.
How's that?
Well, of course, medical warnings. I'm not a doctor. It's possible.
Let's settle for our board then.
Okay. All right, moving on to our final paper this morning, the Vanguard. Of course, Trump to Buhari, protect Nigerians against spate of killings.
Yes.
Why I offered to serve in Jonathan's government, Okonjo-Iweala, saying, former finance minister. Of course, there was this drama about how former governor of Cross River State, Donald Duke, had asked her not to, accept a job under Jonathan. According to her, Jonathan confirmed or agreed that he knew nothing about economics. And so he needed somebody like her to help out.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't see anything wrong. First of all, Okonjo-Iweala is Nigerian. Okonjo-Iweala is qualified.
More than qualified.
More than qualified. And if your country needs you to come render help, I mean, why should it's patriotism? But if I don't see anything wrong with it, because the president had owned up to not having knowledge in certain areas. You have knowledge. Come help us. Government is supposed to be a collection of ideas, a collection of intellectuals, a collection of people. You have this, maybe you have economic ideas, I have journalistic idea, you have medical idea, you have legal idea. We all come together. And we're
some people's understanding of it is there are a group of people who didn't want Jonathan to succeed from the get-go.
It tests you. It tests you. Now it's this thing is beyond netted. But if a president has owned up to say, look, I am deficient in this area. Come fill it in. Then I mean, somebody has said you should be applauded, not to be vilified.
And would you even blame anyone really for maybe not performing up to par in any capacity if there is no functional system?
That's also an act. But again, I think the main cross of the matter is whether it was right for her to have accepted it or not. I think it was right. She has rendered service to fatherland. And that ought to have been applauded. She shouldn't be vilified.
Okay, Melaye drama as lawyers clash with police in court premises. Omo Agege suspension illegal, that's the AGF, and perversion of justice. San gets 30-day jail term. That's
they should feel the heat. Let it go. You should go and smell the road over there.
All right, Charles Sedeho, thank you very much for your review. Of course, you're not going yet anyway. You're still with us. So I want to discuss the first discussion with you, and that will be the Buhari-Trump meeting yesterday. Stay with us on the show. We'll be right back in a moment.
Okay, very interesting days. Security topped the agenda when Presidents Buhari and Trump met in the White House for the first time.
Indeed. Now, this visit is also the first from the sub-Saharan African leader since Trump took office more than a year ago. Both leaders talked about rising terrorism in Nigeria, especially with the killings by armed headers.
And that's terrorism here and terrorism all over the world. It's a hotbed, and we're going to be stopping that. Also, we've had very serious problems with Christians who have been murdered, killed in Nigeria. We're going to be working on that problem, and working on that problem very, very hard, because we can't allow that to happen.
The problem about the cattle rearers and herders in Nigeria is a very long historical thing, but the states most concerned, they knew that the Nigerian herders never carried anything more than a stick and occasionally a machete to cut down foliage and give it to their animals. These ones are carrying AK-47. So I don't think people should underrate what happened in Libya. 43 years of Gaddafi, people were recruited from the Sahel. They were taught nothing other than shoot and kill. With the demise of Gaddafi, they moved to their countries and to their regions, and they carried away with them the only experience they have, training, using weapons. And that's what is aggravating the situation. We are doing our best to make sure we have stopped the cross-border.
Talked about the recent kidnapping of the Dapchi girls.
How did you do with the young women that were kidnapped? How is that going?
The Chibok girls and the Dapchi one. The Chibok one was before we came, 2014. We had only a number of them. We recovered about 30 of them. But the Dapchi one, there are 106 that were kidnapped. We got 100 back. 4 died. 1 is still held in captivity. And we are very grateful to the United Nations organization that is acting as in-between between us and the kidnappers. And we haven't given up. We are trying to get everybody back.
President Buhari there with President Donald J. Trump of the United States. Of course, we still have Charles Ideho with us in the studio to talk to us about how that meeting went yesterday and the later press conference held. Yes, for you as a Nigerian, how did you feel, watching what transpired yesterday between the two presidents?
Well, in the early minutes, I was quite apprehensive. Rightly so, because when you take a look at the antecedent of the president always talking abroad, there's always been this unnecessary goofs. So, but as the meeting progressed and as he began to speak, my confidence began to soar. I don't know, I now heave this out of relief. Thank God that at least he has not said something that we have a backlash back home here. Actually, he made some very good, he said something things that are very, very germane, I can say. Yeah. But the only thing that I would say wasn't necessary was when he was asked about the Chibok girls, there was no
Dapchi girls.
No,
the kidnap of the girls.
Yes, there was no necessity for him to have said that the thing happened before this current administration came in. But government everywhere is a continuum. Yeah, so it's the government of Nigeria that has the problem. So whoever occupies the government is immaterial. But again, that's also immaterial. Yeah. So, but I think we've been able to, what he did yesterday, what he said, and then his meeting with President Trump, it has served to show that Nigeria-U.S. relations. I'm sure we're going to be having a benefit from that in days to come.
We're really looking forward to that one. So, but President Buhari did not fail to talk about Libya's influence in the security challenge that Nigeria is facing.
What I'm going to advise the government now, I think henceforth, let's just stick to one reason why we're having a problem. Because we're having other people are saying it's the politicians that are fueling it. The others are saying it is the enactment of anti-grazing laws. Then the president is saying, no, it's the issue of the trained militias who no longer have jobs after the demise of, following the demise of Gaddafi that are entering because you have very porous borders. And you have over 1,400
porous borders identified porous borders.
There may be more than that. So I think we should stick to that as the official reason we're having this problem. Because when you begin to tell us is Gaddafi and the other one saying politician, there's a problem.
Well, regardless of the reason,
President Buhari has said it over and over again. That might just be the official reason.
That's what I'm saying. We should take it. The others should shut up. They shouldn't tell us something else that is the. Now the president, the CEC has told us that the causes or the main cause of this are those people who have been trained. Then their principal has died. They no longer have jobs. So now because we have porous borders, and then you also have these West African countries, you have a free movement along the borders. Nobody checks anybody. I mean, in that manner. So if we're going to stick to that, let's stick that so that we can deploy our intelligence to tackle it.
Why are we even fixated on whatever reason for these killings, really? Shouldn't the government be looking at how to stop it?
No, we have to identify the cause. We have to identify the remote causes first. If you don't identify the cause to a problem, you'll be able to look for the solution.
Recall months ago, he said the same thing. What has been done? What definite action have you seen before, since then?
But he said, the government is saying, I'm not speaking about the government this morning, he's saying that they are applying multi-pronged approach. So what we need to do is that let's begin to see that, because if, for instance, I'm just saying for instance, because what the president is doing as if he has forever to be there. It's as if he doesn't have forever to be there.
The best he has is another 4 years.
4 years.
Okay, so let's move on to very quickly to some of the issues raised, especially in response to some of the questions asked, from the floor there concerning the issue of trade imbalance. And the direct question as to to President Buhari, did you discuss with President Trump on the issue of Nigeria's hydrocarbons in terms of the U.S. Not buying our oil anymore and, moving towards shale? The president's response, were you impressed by that? When he said it was not in his place to tell the U.S. what to do, only for President Trump to jump in and say, actually, we talked about agriculture and how, Nigeria can import, agricultural produce.
Yes, I also saw it, because I really wasn't very impressed with that, because now we are looking at non-oil exports. And agriculture plays a very key role. And we are dissipating energy trying to build our agricultural sector. I expect the president to take advantage of that moment to begin to market what we've got. Because if, for instance, we're beginning to import agriculture goods to Nigeria, then it's going to harm our own industry. It's going to harm that sector. Whatever Ogbe has done so far, everything's going to be rubbish.
Especially with the diversification agenda of the administration.
Exactly. So what I expect president to look, we can import machinery, but we have agricultural produce, so we can even export them in crude form. But I think he missed that opportunity there, that he was not as assertive enough on that aspect.
And there seem to be some lost moments, really, for President Buhari, at a point when journalists were asking him about his opinion on some of the statements President Trump made.
About the S-hole, about the S-hole.
Exactly.
Yes.
He said he preferred to just keep quiet.
No, but he should have kept quiet, because what I expected him as the nosy reporters. Was Nigeria mentioned? No, if I were the president, I would say, oh, yes, we heard he allegedly says so, that Trump allegedly says so. But did you hear Nigeria mentioned? That should have put paid to the question. But when he said this and then he decided not to bother.
Sometimes you wonder, when the president is going out on special, visits like this, do people sit him down to say, look, these are the questions you should anticipate, and this is how you should respond, for example? Does that even happen in the first place?
I think it does. But again, you also look at how deep are these people who are telling him all those things. You need, a president is supposed to have access to communicators, access to psychologists, access to all these people who are vast in foreign diplomacy. Yes. So by the time he's going over there, because as he's going there, he's carrying the burden of Nigeria upon his shoulder. Whatever he says there is either going to rob on us negatively or positively. So I think he has. But the question is that, are you saying? I mean, I'm thinking that there's something like eye service over there. Maybe people are not telling him what he should do.
Truth.
Again, that's on the one hand. On the other hand, is the president? Is the president a listening type when it comes to that? Okay. Is it the kind of president who say, "No, I know what to do"? So these are the conflicting factors. Totally exactly. So we don't know which of them is responsible for that. But I think from now on, from now till he serves out his first tenure, if he's going to win again, no problem. But people should begin. If the people who are then are not doing what is right, we should begin to get like a
wasn't that the same statement made when he came back, from his last trip, and there were so many talks and suggestions that there must be a team in place for the president, to groom him sort of for this kind of discussions. Now, that aside, let's look at security, where, of course, some Nigerians are saying that, in fact, President Buhari was just patronizing all through the meeting yesterday. He kept saying, we are grateful, we are grateful, we are grateful to the U.S., but then the kind of help the U.S. is offering Nigerian security system, really, now, as per training and then, supplies of some of these gadgets.
But I expected, again, that's why the pre-meeting briefing is very, very important. I expected the president to have even gone beyond the issue. To say, because I think they've given us about 2 years to supply those certificates.
2020.
Yeah, 2 years. That's the company. That is the company. But President Trump said, in response to a question, how soon will this equipment or helicopter get to us? He said very soon.
That's what I'm saying, very soon. When is very soon?
When is very soon?
So what I started want to say that what the president want to have, I expected, okay, 2 years, by 2 years would have been killed.
2 years is definitely not very soon.
President Trump, Mr. President, could you please help us shorten the waiting time? I expected that to come from the president. Oh, yeah, we are very grateful, no problem about that. We're very grateful for what you are doing so far and so on. But please, the 2 years, for me, it will hamper what gains we have made so far. It will also hamper whatever plans we have on ground. Can you please maybe make it either maybe 6 months or 9 months to enable us to start working? I mean, people are being trained already. So can we shorten the time?
Yeah, that's and Nigeria is paying for it too. I mean, it's not like the
free.
US
it's not free. It's not free.
Doing all of this gratis.
About $900 for something, $1 million.
A whole lot of money.
Absolutely.
So let's try to look at some of the benefits to Nigeria. The agri sector, we hear that some progress we've made in that direction, apart from what Trump said, of course, about Nigeria importing their agricultural produce. Airline national carrier project may take off very soon. There's this $2 billion, to be negotiated, for modernized rail system, of course. There's a meeting with the Boeing, the largest aircraft manufacturer in the world. So that's very, that's a good one.
That's right.
That's a good one.
I agree with you. So, and these are the takeaways.
Yeah.
Let's forget about what the president did say right.
Yes.
But let's
what
focus
did he get
on
right?
What they get. Yeah. Let's focus on the gains. I think the visit of the president to Trump, we have some things to gain from them. What is just not, let's go beyond just mere rhetorics. Let's go beyond just he has visited, and then we are not supposed to be relaxing. When somebody has made promises, all you need to do is to keep reminding. I mean, there should be, from now on, let there be flurry of activities about this U.S.-Nigeria trade relations. Let's begin to see how we can, the everyday man will begin to feel it. Rather than just after he has visited, he's come back home, then business as usual. It will be a waste.
Knowing that U.S. is a democratic country and is very, very interested in promoting human rights. What are some of the things that Nigeria must do? Because you know that a little misstep could, you know, like Nigerians would say, throw Sansan in the garage.
Yeah, because that's as well, where would the Sansan come from? Sansan will come from the issue of kidnappings, the issue of this Boko Haram running riot, and we no longer run riot as is what, but herdsmen are running riot. If between now and December, the government of Nigeria is unable to rein in the dastardly activities of the herdsmen, it might negatively impact on whatever gains we have, because the U.S. should be watching. I know the man will have the same. He said the killings of Christians, the killings of innocent others, whether Christians are Muslim. You must. He said it must stop. We can no longer accept it. So they are going to be watching from day one. Today, they're going to be watching what the president is going to be doing. Not president, what the government is going to be doing. So if we fail to do so, if we fail to rein in this, if we fail to make any gains in that aspect, it might impact negatively on the meeting with Trump. And at the end of the day, it may just be as if we just went there, we saw, and we didn't conquer.
There are about 40 or so American companies in Nigeria. I'm sure not many people even know that.
Yeah, know that.
I didn't even know that.
Right.
You know, and of course, they've been talking about the need for a better business environment for them to function in a way that it will benefit, it will be a mutually beneficial relationship between the U.S. and Nigeria. How do we begin to ensure that the environment really, in terms of whether it's corruption we're talking about, the rule of law, which is a major issue when it comes to foreign investors looking in, you know, to Nigeria as to whether we should buy into whatever Nigeria has to offer?
Well, in most cases, the environment is really not very palatable to outsiders when they come here to do business, because the ease of doing business is very. I mean, there's even no ease of doing business. You have to talk about the power, the energy, and the power is not there. People have to run gen for almost 24 hours to make sure they keep producing. Even when they produce, the issue of roads network, you know. Then what about the multi-tax system, the taxation? The local government will tax, the state will tax, the federal government will tax. Then you talk about talk about the sales tax. Yeah. Talk about the VAT and so. So you have this multiplicity of taxation that's also not helping them. So I think what the government should do, first of all, let's fix our power sector, so that companies coming in, if you're able to fix power, maybe about 18 hours every day, the issue of running costs we reduce by half. That again, we can begin to make gains for them, begin to tend to say. Then they also have to talk about the issue of security. When you have your goods manufactured in Benin, for instance, and then you are transporting them to Lagos market, then what about between Lagos and what about the issue of kidnapping, the issue of armed robbery, and so on? So we need to also look at that. That's because America, where they're coming from, some of these are not there. So when they come into your country and they're witnessing things like that, it hampers them. It reduces their zest to work. So these are things we should be looking for, because you know what? When they succeed, it will be beneficial to us, because the employment for our locals will be here. Absolutely. Then you have the technology transfer, because when they're going to be working, they're going to be learning. At the end of the day, we'll be better for it. So I think the government has a lot to do in that area.
Many will be wondering if this meeting is happening at this time because the U.S. has saying that Nigeria is getting too close to China.
But again, there was a time when we Paris said the U.S. abandoned us. We had to look for new friends. But if they accept us back, we might tell China, sorry, our old friend is back. So see you next time.
All right, and if you really are a friend, please return the $500 million that you promised.
We need the money.
Okay, Charles Ideho, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you
this morning. Yes. All right, we'll take a very short break, and when we come back, we'll be looking at the herdsmen and, of course, food security in Nigeria. That truly is under threat.